Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video I'll be doing a full review of the Harrier GR.1, a currently 10.0 British premium jet that costs 9,090 GE. In this review I'll go over its stats, how it plays, its strengths and weaknesses. I'll give it scores in several key categories, and then I'll go over if I think that it's worth purchasing or not. Finally, my long-awaited review of a plane that's already been out for years. As always, please subscribe for more totally rad content, but either way, let's get into it. So to start, I'll place its stats here on the left side of the screen. Some important stats to know are its BR, top speed, rate of climb, and turn time. Now for how it plays. Put simply, this plane plays very uniquely for someone who is not accustomed to VTOL planes in War Thunder. Similar to the Yak-38, but more so its sister planes, the AV-8s and the American Air Tech Tree, the Harrier GR1 features prodigious acceleration from low speed, beating essentially every other plane in-game outside of the slightly quicker AV-8s. Because of this, and in spite of it being subsonic, the GR1 will be able to climb incredibly quickly and can outrun a fair amount of opponents that it might face, as well as out-accelerate them in a dogfight. It does, however, lose a ton of thrust as it gains speed, so after you hit around 900 but more so 1,000 kilometers per hour, you will notice a pretty sharp drop in your acceleration. It will easily overheat, however, so you need to keep throttle at or below 95% at most. Aside from this, as its acceleration and general performance are its most immediately notable features when first flying the GR1, it has somewhat poor maneuverability, though this can be slightly augmented by manually changing thrust vectoring during flight, as you can change it throughout your entire speed band. Whereas a Yak-38, for example, will only allow you to do this at lower speeds. I personally try to keep it at around 10 to 20% thrust vectoring while flying in order to prevent me from having to actively change it too much while in flight in order to see at least somewhat increased maneuverability, along with most of it being still forward thrust. Even still, doing this aggressively will typically only give you around average maneuverability, and will take attention away from the dogfight itself, as you actively have to change your thrust vectoring constantly if you want maximum effectiveness. Regardless, the showcase of this plane, and the main reason why it sits at 10.0 BR currently, are its SRAAM missiles. It can carry 4 of these, and they have insanely ridiculous tracking abilities, although at an equally unbelievably short range. Basically, if you can track an enemy with the SRAAM, and you're within around 1.5 kilometers of the enemy that is not moving away from you, and they don't use flares, the SRAAMs will hit. SRAAMs will seemingly take 90-degree turns once you fire them in order to hit an enemy. Plus, you have 4 of them, making it so that, especially once the match winds down, or maybe once at the beginning of a match, you can easily take out a bot plane for extra RP and SL. Aside from this, it features 2 30mm Aiden cannons with 130 shells each. While effective, they do spray a little bit much, reducing their accuracy, which will make it difficult to be efficient with them outside of very close ranges. For close air support, the GR1 also functions very well, being able to carry up to 4 1,000-pound bombs, over 100 SNEB unguided rockets, or a mix of those weapons plus SRAAM missiles, making it a good multi-role aircraft with the ability to provide close air support and air cover in the same match. It also has ballistics computers for its bombs and rockets, making it extra effective. While it is by no means incredible at close air support and only has access to unguided ordnance, it can still deliver precision strikes and is overall more capable than currently every other premium plane in the British Air Tech Tree, though I'm sure that this will be changing in the near future as more premiums are added to the game. And now for its strengths and weaknesses, and as always I'll start off with its strengths. So first, it has SRAAM missiles that are among the best in the game for close range dogfighting. Second, it has amazing low to mid end acceleration. Third is an excellent close air support plane with good options, though this is largely because it does have its ballistics computer, which is of course its 4th strength. For its 5th strength, it has changeable VTOL while in flight at all speeds, meaning that you can adjust it to directly impact your maneuverability, even if only slightly. Beyond this, it has powerful 30mm cannons. 7th, it has an excellent roll rate, and finally, it has RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses, it has no countermeasures. This is possibly the largest weakness of the GR1, especially considering the typically good missiles that it will face. Secondly, while it accelerates quickly, it is not supersonic. Third, it has engines that overheat extremely quickly. Fourth, its SRAAM missiles have an insanely short range and are difficult to predict. Fifth, it has poor maneuverability. Beyond this, it has no radar. And seventh, it has a limited ammo count for its 30mm cannons, which means that long bursts are not an option. And finally, its 30mm Aiden cannons, while powerful, will sometimes result only in crits, leaving you with far more assists than you may want. And now, let's jump right into its scores. So for dogfighting, I give the GR1 a 7 out of 10. This plane functions best off of the immediate front lines where it won't draw attention. It lacks countermeasures, which is incredibly dangerous at its BR, and has mediocre maneuverability, as well as cannons that people will either like or hate but never really love. It does, however, have SRAAMS, and when used correctly can earn 3 or 4 kills per match fairly consistently. This is, however, if you do not succumb to any of its aforementioned poisons, such as not being able to maneuver away from a missile that you can't use countermeasures against. Plus, you have to be incredibly close for SRAAMs to even work, as they are not a gimme all the time. For close air support, I give it a 6.5 out of 10, largely because of its ballistics computer and decent ground ordnance loadout. While it carries a fairly common loadout, it can still strike with precision and has the ability for multi-role, although at the expense of some of your anti-ground ordnance. For grinding, I give the GR1 a 7.5 out of 10. Because this plane is a bit more of an air RB plane than a ground RB plane, and being that air RB gives you a relatively large amount of RP and SL compared to ground RB, I have to say that this plane is quite effective at grinding. While it isn't the greatest and it lacks the ability to stay alive due to its weaknesses, it will still reward you massively when you have a few kills per match, and especially if you're able to drop bombs on enemy bases in your air RB match. It will get you through the tech tree quicker than most planes, especially once you become proficient with it. Finally, I give the Harrier GR1 a 7 out of 10 overall, as it is still excellent, though this plane comes with a much steeper learning curve than most other planes, premium or otherwise. Now that said, for my final recommendation, this plane, despite its incredibly powerful missiles, is by no means invincible, as its reputation may have you think. Far from it, in fact. It has a low top speed for its BR, its engines overheat extremely easily, it has largely poor maneuverability, its close air support options are somewhat lackluster, though it does of course still have its ballistics computer, and of course it has no countermeasures. It does, however, still have those SRAAMs, which, when used correctly, will make you feel pretty darn close to invincible, in spite of all the GR1 shortcomings. So, do I recommend it? Well, for a high-tier British premium plane, yes, I do. It will take some getting used to, and you must know to not single yourself out, but rather to ride in with the rest of your allies, or slightly behind them, as you cannot properly defend yourself. Otherwise, I would take a few planes over the Harrier GR1 if you have the choice, including the Chinese tech tree A5C, the American F5C, and maybe the MiG-21 SPSK for Germany, but only if you're really into playing only air RB. Otherwise, the only other plane that I might consider is the AVA-A, which itself is the American version of this, with toned down missiles but better flight performance, a lower BR, and comes with a pack that includes 2000 GE and 15 days of premium time. Much like my other suggestions. The AVA-A is also arguably better for close air support, whereas the Harrier GR1 is a bit more air RB oriented, with decent close air support capability. I digress, however. The Harrier GR1 is not some sort of amazing plane, but you can still do amazing things with it, simply because it is armed with amazing missiles, so long as you are extremely close to your enemies. I both love and hate this plane, but once I learned how to truly take advantage of its strengths, I began to really love this plane, and that is enough for me. That said though, thank you all so much for watching. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe if you like more content, as it all means so much to me. Either way, thank you all again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.